Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here and welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to check out a plugin called WOW2 from Bytes. Firstly, if you're new to my channel, new to my videos, and you like what you see, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So WOW2 from Bytes. I've used a few plugins from Bytes before, tried them out. They create some really interesting plugins that are extremely powerful. And this one is no different, okay? This is a filter plugin. Basically, in basic terms, it's a filter plugin, but it has so many features, lots of filter types, distortions, modulations, you name it, whatever you want in a filter, it's probably got it in this plugin. So let's just get into it and check it out. Okay, so here we are in Cubase and I have got, obviously, WOW2 open here. I'm running demo version. I haven't purchased it yet. I'm just trying it out. So this is sort of my first experiences with the plugin and it just looked interesting. I like the look of it. And my previous experience with Bytes plugins are they are very good, very powerful, and pretty much do anything that you think you want to do. They usually can do them. So just to give a brief explanation, and I will take some of this from the manual because the wording in the manual is usually better than how I can describe something. So WOW2 is a multi-mode filter plugin. It has 21 high-quality filter types, and each filter type can operate in a vowel mode to create some vocal sounds, that sort of thing. And you can choose from 3 analog and 4 digital distortion types. And then there's modulation as well on top of that. And I think that's pretty much it, which is quite a lot, obviously. Okay, so just to go over some basics here, up in here in Cubase, we have some presets that are defined there. But on top of that, there's the presets down here. I think they're the same anyway. So you can either grab them from either side. So we've got presets on the side here. We can flick between them over here. We also have a dice here, which I'm pretty sure they have that on a lot of their plugins, does sort of random features. This one doesn't say that it does random features, but it picks a random preset. So if you just want to roll the dice and see what comes out, just click on that a few times and yeah, you'll get what you want, or not what you'll get some different variances. And there's save and load and all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so the main guts of this thing is the red section here, which is our actual filter section. Okay, this is where I guess most of the work is going to be done. This is where we're getting everything we want to happen. So we have some basic controls here. We have a cutoff control here. Okay, so this is just setting our filter cutoff. We can obviously turn it. It'll adjust the cutoff of the filter that you have selected. We have a resonance control down here. So if you know anything about filters, you'll know resonance usually does a little bit of a peak at the spot where the filter sort of drops off, that sort of thing. Now they actually describe it in great detail here. About what the resonance does, but we'll sort of play with it. I mean, you can obviously read the manual if you want to, but we'll have a play and see what it does. But there's obviously some other features as well that go along hand in hand with it. Okay, so we have some distortion controls here. So this control here is going to be, I'm assuming, the amount of distortion. And then this little drop-down box here is going to give us our distortion type. So to just flick through the types, again, just looking at the manual as I go, we got parabolic is a tube-like overdrive. Hyperbolic is a tube-like double drive for angry distortions. Diabolic is a diode-like distortion. 1 bit turns everything into yeah, 1 bit turns everything into a pulse wave. Sine, the audio signal drives a sine function. Crush is a bit crusher, and digitize is a sample rate reducer. Okay, and we can actually pick here between where the distortion goes. We can have the distortion before the cutoff or after the cutoff, right? That's that little symbol there is our cutoff there. So we can actually move it before or after where we want our distortion to go. If it's set to 0 here, then it's not doing any distortion. Ramp it up, it's doing distortion. Now the volume control here, or level as they describe it in the manual, is a slight bit different in regards to that they state that 50% is actually a 1-to-1 level. This actually allows you to boost, so you can go higher and increase it if you want to, or obviously decrease it, but you can double the volume, so you can actually make it louder, but 50% is the default. And if you double click on any of these settings, they will go back to default. It's interesting there doesn't seem to be a value. I would have thought some numbers might have come up. I don't know if there's a setting here. Yeah, I probably would have liked some numbers, but it doesn't seem to show anything. It's just a visual thing there. It could be because it's bypassed, maybe. Okay, well, the speaker gets bigger. Interesting. Okay, anyway, I'll put it back in bypass for the moment. We have dry wet control as usual. Pretty much all plugins these days have this. So obviously if it's dry, we're mixing in none of the effect. If we go fully wet, we mix in all of the effect, and anywhere in between is sort of a partial mix between the two. Okay, so we have filter types, and they're very well sort of explained in the manual. Just to very quickly go through it, we've got a high pass section here, we've got a band pass, a low pass, and a special section. Okay, so 2-pole is a 12 dB high pass. 2-pole saturation is a 12 dB high pass, including saturation. 4-pole is a 24 dB high pass, and diode MS is a 12 dB 1-pole high pass based on a MS diode ladder filter. You know, that's also, I could read all of these in the manual if anybody wants me to, but obviously you can also download the manual yourself. So similar thing is going to happen in the band pass there, same concept, 2-pole, 4-pole, and low pass. There's a couple of obviously different ones there. The ladder MG here is a 24 dB low pass based on the Moog transistor, or Moog, I don't know how you say it. A diode MS, I think we had that one. Yeah, we had that up there. The 030 is a 18 dB low pass based on the Roland TB303 filter. Okay, and then we have some specials here. So we've got a mid boost, which is a 24 dB SVF low pass band pass combination. We have a peak, which creates a peak at the cutoff frequency without losing original audio. We have a notch, which creates a hole at the cutoff frequency, keeping original audio. We have a band reject, which is raises frequencies around the cutoff frequency and creates 2 peaks with high resonance. Very good in vowel mode, it says. Okay. We have a mid clear, which is a 12 dB high pass, low pass combination, which eliminates the mid frequencies between them. We have a comb, which is a feedback delay line with delay times according to the cutoff frequency. All right, then we have, I'll just close that down. We have this vowel mode section here. So we can actually turn the vowel mode on and off with this button here. But then what we can also do, if we turn it on, hang on. Oh, okay. I was trying to work out how to control it. You actually click on it and move your mouse up and down, and you are picking basically the vowels here, right? So yeah, they've got different symbols. Okay, so some of the vowels are different pronunciations. So like this one here looks like a backwards C, but it's actually A is in or, whereas you have an A, which is backwards A, which is like A from father, so fa, ah, I guess it's ah. Then you've got like ba, at, you know, ah. So there's all different vowels, right? And you can set the to and from. Okay, so the first vowel and the second vowel, and that's going to alternate with this. I think the cutoff here controls that a bit. And you can actually right click. Okay, you can right click here to turn on modulation. So you can right click on any of these to enable modulation. Pretty much, yeah, any of them. Okay. So you can modulate any of these effects, well, the cutoff and not the actual thing there. And that's where this section down the bottom comes in with the modulation section. So let's just play with some settings with this first, and we'll come back and talk about modulation later. I won't turn any modulation on right now. All right, so this is what I've got at the moment. All right, I've just decided to pick sort of an electronic drum sound because it's probably something you're most likely going to use a filter on. So if we just bring it in, okay, instantly the sound changes. So that's our dry. You can see obviously the little symbol changes here, which is very, yeah, it's a cute little symbol there to say it's dry, it's wet. Okay, so at the moment we've got it set. Well, we had always another bar. I don't know what that is, but you know, so you can see what the filter's doing there. And obviously the volume. You know, we'll just leave it as normal there, but. And then we've got our resonance, so you can see. It's interesting again that they don't have any values, which I find a bit funny if you were actually trying to get an exact frequency. But you can see what the resonance is doing there, obviously. Okay, so let's turn that off now and let's just jump in and crank up some distortion and we'll have a look. So we'll start with, go to parabolic here. So we can get pretty nasty there. Good if you want to control these settings and sort of play a little bit live there. Okay, so yeah, that's so we'll flick through. I'll set the distortion fairly high, but not totally. Just flick through them. Obviously that's a nastier distortion. Oh, okay. Okay, that's obviously getting applied sort of in a sine wave form. So that's the bit crusher. Definitely totally change your drums there, because we're going from this. That's what's playing. Definitely crushed. And last, they've got digitize. Changes the sample rate. And then obviously you can combine all of these, or we can put it after the filter too. So there's that trick as well. So if we just put it there, I'll just flick between before and after. Right, so there's a big difference there. That's sort of the sound you're getting before and then after. Very different sound there, going before and after. So endless fun games to play there. Let's have a look at the vowel one. So we'll turn that on now. Actually, before we do the vowel, let's flick through a few of the actual filters here. So obviously that's a high pass, right? That's with some saturation. All right, we got our low pass there. Steeper curve, saturation, even steeper. It's got a unique sound to it. And we got a band pass there. That's the Moog style one. Mid boost. Peak, notch. Well, obviously you'll have to, you want to try this out, grab the demo and play with it yourself, because, I'm not an expert on all these little items, but you can see how much there is, right? So now we've got a comb filter. Very interesting. I thought we did. Oh, that's right. Okay, we've gone all the way around. That's fine. Let's go back to our low pass. Okay, so let's have a look at the vowel setting now. And okay, so description in the manual basically states that when we go into vowel mode, right, we can set obviously a first vowel and a second vowel, and the cutoff knob is used to fade between two vowel frequencies. So bandpass and comb filter modes are recommended for the best sounds. Okay, so well, let's go with that. So let's go with a bandpass. And a high resonance can help. All right, so that's what it is normally. That's what it is with the vowel. Let's try the comb. Let's turn the volume down a little bit. Right, that's what it is normally. Turn the resonance down a bit. Now if we turn up vowel. That was a fun for all the family. Right, so that's the vowel thing there. So obviously, yeah, if you know what you're doing with these, you could probably get better sounds out of it. So let's actually flick through a few presets. Actually, before we do some presets, okay, then let's talk about the modulation now, right? We've sort of had to play with this. We've covered it. Let's talk about modulation. So let's just go back. Okay, I thought that was default, but anyway, it's not. What is default? Okay. There is no default. Excellent. That's fine. Okay, so let's talk about modulation. Okay, so the modulation section has 4 modulation engines. Okay, so we've got an envelope follower. Okay, and then within each one of these, right, we'll talk about the other ones in a minute, but we've got within each one is some different settings. Okay, so in the envelope follower, we have a gain, which sets the level of the control signal. We have the attack, which smooths the rising part of the control signal. We have a decay, which smooths the falling part of the control signal. And we have a frequency range, which is a bandpass filter in the sidechain circuit, allows frequency selective envelope following. So they explain it as in, just read the manuals so we get a better explanation. That way you can grab a kick, a snare, or other signals to produce a control signal. Turn the knob down to bypass the filter and feed the whole spectrum into the envelope follower. All right, so we can move these controls around. So there's little arrows here. We can move them to shape our envelopes here. Okay, and then we have a source as well, which is here. So the source, the envelope follower can be provided with an input signal or with an output signal to create the envelope from. Okay, so if we have a circle on, it indicates that it is using audio output for the envelope follower. And if it's an eye, it's the input is used for the envelope follower. Right, so we have all of these extra settings down the bottom as well, and we can actually scroll across and get lots and lots of little settings here, okay? But I think these bits down here, these are actually all the controls up here, which you can manually select, okay? So you can scroll across here and you can pick what you want this to control, and you can do it down here. But you can also do it up here, right? So the same controls are up here. So you could, let's have a look. So like the vowel here. Now you see the bottom one is moving at the same time as I do this, okay? So we can adjust that. Now it looks like we can have multiple modulations happening. So I'm just going to reset that. But you can control it either from here or down here. So if I was to say increase that one, decrease that one, if I now right click, you'll see that value there. If I right click on this one, you'll see the negative value there. Okay, and we could also scroll across and control other settings, right? So you'll probably want to either get to know these or just focus on doing it up here in this control. Okay, so if we look at the second type, this is an LFO, which is basically an oscillator. All right, and the controls for this. Okay, so we can turn on this audio trigger button here, which is sort of a sync audio trigger. And what that states that it is doing is that it'll restart the LFO with the incoming audio. So I guess every time you start the audio, it'll restart the LFO. If you have it off, it will just continuously go and won't restart. Okay, you can adjust the trigger sense here to adjust the incoming audio to the desired retrigger rate. If we put it to the left, it'll create more triggers. And if we put it to the right, it'll create less triggers. Okay, and we can also click on this spot here, right? So this is where it's synced audio trigger. Okay, so it's synced to, I guess, to our tempo, to our DAW tempo. And it has this audio trigger setting, right? We can also click and have it free. The LFO runs at divisions of your host BPM and can be re-triggered by the incoming audio signal with the audio trigger. Okay, if we click again, we have song position. The song position is used to generate the LFO waveform using that method. Okay, so this mode here is supposed to lock in the LFO setting based on your song. So what they're describing here is that you can be assured of what the LFO is doing and where it is in the LFO every time. So their explanation is that on beat 32, the waveform will be in the same position no matter whether you start the playback at beat 12 or beat 36, right? Some other LFOs there, it's going to restart, which means that every time you play it, depending on where you play it from in the song, could give you a different sound. With song mode or song position, they're saying that that won't happen. It's basically going to lock itself to each beat and it's going to be consistent no matter how you play this. Okay, so we have on top of that, we have a wave control here. Let me just put that back there. So you can see I can move this to get all different types of wave shapes. So they have lots there. You know, they go from sine, you know, saw, triangle. You know, that was actually probably triangle. Not exactly sure what you call that one. That's obviously square. That's sort of a square, not quite. But you can see there's lots of different types there, okay? And they say there's even random. All right, you can get different random ones. Okay, and then the control down here, I believe, sets the rate. So you can see there, it slows down and speeds up. You can see there's a value over here. All right, that's when it's in sync. If I go free, we can set it to a hertz value there. And song, again, it's back to beats. All right, it's synced to the tempo. All right, so the next one here is a step sequencer. All right, so when you think you can't do enough for this plugin, it gets even more. So a sequencer generates 16 steps of curves, etc. All right, so we can set the tempo, okay, which is obviously synced to the DAW. We can set the direction that it's going to go through the sequence, right? So we can obviously just go forwards, and then I guess it'll jump back, go forwards, jump back, go forwards. We could go backwards, so it'll go backwards, jump, backwards, jump. We could go backwards, forwards, so we can go forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. We can also go random, which will just go all over the place, okay? So I'm not 100% sure of this glide control here because it says I mean, the manual doesn't explain it to me anyway. It probably makes perfect sense to everybody else. It just says glides the sequence steps to a continuous curve. So I guess if I have them all off, it's very square. But you can see there, yeah, I guess it's gliding between steps, right? So you can see if I turn them all on, it's very angled, right? It's gliding, right? But if I turn off certain ones, you get very static steps, right? And extremely static steps there if I turn them all off. So that's what glide is. So there you go. Manual didn't explain it well in my head, but I just worked it out. And we have the famous Sugar Bytes random. So we can randomize our step sequencer here to get some really unique and weird sounds. All right, you can just keep flicking through to see what you get. Very good. All right, and the last one is called a wobbler. So the wobbler knob lets you choose from 12 LFO speeds and 16 waveforms. Okay, so this one here seems a little bit confusing to me. I'm trying to work it out. They talk about this star thing being a special. It says the snowflake indicator is a freeze mode. Like a sample and hold module, the freeze will maintain the last active value as long as it is selected. If the knobble wob turns from a sine wave to a snowflake, the last value of the sine wave will be held until another waveform is selected. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. There's also, they talk about 5 fixed values. So how it seems that you can control this is that you can grab this one here, which will change all of them. And all I do is I click and I move my mouse up, right? So here's a snowflake. Then you've got 0%, 25, 50%, 75, 100. No, that's 100. Yep. And then we start to get into some curves. And we have all different sort of curves. So I can keep moving and we get different shapes, squares, sines, all various little things there. On top of that, you can actually grab each individual one and do the same thing, right? So you could set any of these to whatever you want. Again, we have our lovely randomize button here, so we could play with this to our heart's content and get lots of random selections. We can set the starting phase, so we can set where we want the wobble LFO to start. So it determines, yeah, okay. So depending on where you set it, it determines on whether the modulation will go up when you hit a note or whether it goes down when you hit a note, depending on where you set it or somewhere in between. All right, so you can put it any place in that phase relationship there for when you hit the key to when the wobble happens. Okay, and I'm assuming that this one here sets, well, it seems to be setting beats, or is it the amount of these that it uses? Well, I guess we'll find out when we get into it because I'm not sure. We'll just have to see what we see. Now, on top of that, if you are somebody that likes to play with these and use a MIDI controller to play this sort of live or whatever else, you can basically right-click on any of these and do a MIDI learn function. Okay, so you can turn it on. So they suggest, and you can do that on any of these, right? It's all there. So right-click anywhere you want, whatever value you want to set, you can do that. Well, you can't set individuals here, but you could set that main one. You can set this value. And you can even set them down here, any of these individual controls, or do it within here, right? All right, so let's just say we've got something here. Now let's say I want to control this with the envelope filter. go down because it's an LFO. So you can see it's not really doing much. Okay, so you can see that change it in or out. Okay, we can change the frequency range. And then we could change our attack and decay. See, and you get the visual representation there. Okay, and as I said, we can have that affect anything we like. So we can have it affect this as well. Okay, so now we're adding distortion with this as well. Okay, let's reset that for the moment. So then we've got our LFO. So we'll do the same thing. Just to show okay, so you can see the movement of it with this LFO here, right? So I'm not exactly sure what that's going to do there, but let's try. All right, so we can change our waveform, increase our rate. That looks pretty random to me. Okay, so with the auto trigger there, you can see it's actually restarting between the pauses. So it's not me stopping play, which is what I thought it was. It's actually silent gaps between the audio. So it's definitely responding with a kick there, right? So right now it's responding way too much here. So it's not actually moving. Or we can go less and it doesn't actually react at all with that sensitivity. Now we have the free mode as well. Just allows us to have different setting. And then there was that song one, which is probably a bit hard to sort of show in this regard here because it's not a specific song as such. All right, so now we have our step, which will do the same thing. So we'll reset that. And again, we'll set that down negative for our step. Okay, so you can see it working through the steps. Probably go a bit faster. All right, so you can see that. Stepping through the 16 steps. Going forwards, we could go backwards. Or backwards and forwards. So when we get to the end, it's going to go back. And we can just go random. It just jumps around randomly in our steps. We can smooth it. Now let's go. We'll go in one direction for the smooth. So it should all smoothly skip between it, but if I turn them all off, it should be very static. All right, and we can go obviously faster. Randomize. Now, obviously there I've got the depth or the amount very high. Now, going up in this case, not really going to affect anything because of the filter we have. But we can pick a different filter, of course. You know, this is going to work on any filter. All right, we just randomize. Okay, let's check out the wobble. Let's see what the heck that does. So what I'm not sure about, okay, so hang on, we'll do that again. All right, so let's check out the wobble function. Hang on, we'll just go back here to that again. Okay, so let's check out the wobble function now and see what the heck that does. So we'll go again, reset that. Now we'll set that down pretty heavy as well. All right, and we'll see what it does. Okay, so if we set them all, okay, I just want to see, not quite sure what that does. So it is the speed. Okay, so it's the speed of the wobble. So you can see how wobbly that gets. And you can change the phase. Okay, so we can randomize. Okay, so you can hear some pretty interesting effects going on there. Okay, but I'm guessing on top of that, you can actually turn on a portion of every one of these if you so wanted to, which will go even more berserk. All right, so you could set, let's have a look. What do we got? Okay, but you might want to adjust the levels of each, a little bit of wobble, you know, say a lot of step, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Okay, we could change to an entirely different filter. Okay, that doesn't seem... Alright, and then we can have distortion in. Okay, but so let's reset that. So let's say we want to, we can control lots of things. Okay, so let's just say here, I'm going to use the wobble on this one. All right. So we're going to get that. I'm going to actually put, let's go with an envelope on this one, right? So it's going to increase the distortion. All right, and then we can change the values. Now, and I think the starting point also determines. All right. And then we could say, okay, well, I'm going to do the resonance on this. And then if you even want to go further, you can set the vowel to be working. I'm not sure the direction of this. So actually moving the vowels now. So absolutely massively powerful this thing is. It is ridiculous what you could do with this. Let's just, now we've gone through pretty much all the settings here. The only thing I haven't shown you, I guess, or really shown you, is obviously I said we can do MIDI learn, and I'll see if I can get that going in a second. Let's not talk about that yet. Okay, so let's run through a few presets and just flick through just to give you an idea of some of the sounds that they've done. Now, what I forgot to mention here is there's several folders here as well. That was just A, there's B, there's C. All right, so you can see. Okay, that's a good vowel setting. Okay, there's absolutely tons of presets here. And a good thing is, as I said, we can randomize. if you can't get the sound you want out of this, you're not trying hard enough. Okay, so just very quickly, I've just plugged in a Rolly light block. I haven't set it up properly or anything, but I've just quickly plugged it in. I've created a MIDI channel here, set the input to the light block, and set the output to the WOW2. And then in theory, if I right click on here, I can click on one of these buttons and then I can touch my my light block, and it now will function as a MIDI controller for this control. And you can do that on any one of these controls with your various dials, etc. So if we just play through this, I could then sit here I'm obviously not doing it very well, but you know, like I said, I haven't got it set up 100%, but you can see what I can do. So you can configure your MIDI controller to do all of that quite simply, just using this function with a MIDI track, pointing it to here, and off you go. So there you go. That is WOW2 from Sugar Bytes. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. If you have any questions, please, again, feel free to put it in the comments. This is not really something that I'm use all the time. You know, I'm not a beat maker. I'm not that sort of person, or artist. So it's a little bit sort of out of my space, but very interesting to play with, and obviously extremely powerful, as you'll probably see from the video. So I'm interested to hear from you what you think, especially if you do usually use these sort of plugins. I'd love to hear your opinion about this plugin and whether it's something that you will be getting or already have because of what it can do. Again, if you like what you see here, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. I really do appreciate the support. So if you do any of those things, I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully the video has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.